So students, do let me know when you can hear me. The proportion of income spent on the good, right? So that's the basis of assigning weights in CPI calculation, the proportion of income spent on the good slash service. So that's how economists assign weights between different products. Okay, are we good on this, students? Okay, so we'll have to quickly remake our table, because when the class ends, we lose all of our data, right? But no worries, right? We should be able to do it fairly quickly, right? Okay. Okay. Now let's have a look at this. So we said that we will make this many columns, right? Okay. And I'll tell you towards the end of the class that what type of questions are being asked on the exam. So they might not want you to do this entire table, but in the past, there have been questions in the exam where they did ask you to explain how inflation is calculated, which means that you need to know everything in detail, right? So that's why we are spending so much time in doing this, calculation, and I'm showing you how this is done so that you get a clear idea of how this happens, right? So we were assuming that we are calculating inflation for this country between the period of during this last year of 2021. So this column will have starting price, right, or opening price, as you can say, right? And then the second column will have closing price, right? And that will be the last day of the year, right? Closing price, right? And that should be 31st December 2021, right? Then the next column had weights, and then the last two columns that we will see in a bit is original index value, and the last one is new index value. Original index value, and you have new index value. Okay, now students, have a look at this. This was this. So let's take the same 5 products that we assumed in our previous example, right? So food, electricity, fuel, and clothes, right? So you had food, right? Then you had electricity. Then you had fuel, clothes, rent. Clothes and rent. Okay. Just a second, it's taking me some time. So we assume the price of food to be 100 at the start of the period. At the end of the period was 125. Each unit of electricity, let's assume, is 75 per kilowatt, whatever is the basic unit, meter, whatever is the unit used to calculate how much electricity is being consumed. Each liter of fuel was, let's say, at the start of the period 125 rupees per liter. At the end of the period, 130 rupees per liter. Clothes, a typical pair of jeans, as I said, was 500 at the start of the period. Let's say the price has slightly dropped during 2021 because, let's say, the demand was less or whatever could be the reason, right? So now it's 450. Rent was, let's say, 1300 rupees per month for a certain apartment. Now that has increased to, let's say, 1600 rupees for that same apartment. Okay, now coming to the main part, right? Weights. I did tell you that weights are assigned on the basis of importance, and that will be in accordance to the proportion of income spent on that good or service. So weights are always out of 100. So whether I write this as 30% or as 0.3, it should make no difference. Students, are you getting me? So either I write it as a percentage, which is 30%, or I write it as 0.3, because percentage obviously is divided by 100. Yes or no? So 30 divided by 100 is 0.3. Yes or no? So it should not make any difference in this case, right? We good? So how about we make our lives easier, and instead of, percentage, we write it in decimals, right? So we are assuming that food is very important. That's why it's assigned 0.3. Then right now I'm assigning randomly, so you don't need to worry about it, right? So electricity is, let's say, 0.2, right? Then your fuel is 0.2. Let's say fuel is also important. And then you have clothes and rent. So they are, let's say, 0.15 and 0.15. See if all of these weights are adding up to 1, right? So the weight should add up to 1. So this is 5, 0.5, this is 0.7, and this is 1. Yes or no? So weights are adding up to 1. Okay. Now comes in the final part, which is the calculation part. Okay, great, perfect. Now, what you will do in this original index value, that you will multiply the starting price or the original price with the product weights. So it will be 100 times 0.3, right? And similarly, you will do this for all of the products that are listed over here, right? So for electricity, it will be 75 times 0.2, right? Then it will be 125 times 0.2. Students, are you following me? So what we're doing in this column, original index value, we're just multiplying the starting price of the product with its respective weights. So that will be 125 into 0.2, 0.2, right? Okay, then it will be 500 times 0.15. And may I request anyone to do the calculations for me, right? If you have calculators, just tell me in the chat how much each of these is, because I don't think so. My calculator is lying somewhere nearby. Okay, and then the last of all will be 1300 times 0.15. 1300 times 0.15, right? Okay, now, right. So first one is how much? Yeah, that will be 30, right? This will be, what is half of this will be 35. That's correct. No. 75 into 0.2 is, it's lesser than this. It's 15, 25, and 75, right? So I'm just writing it down, even if that's not correct. 15, 25, 75, and what's the last one? 195. Perfect. Sorry, the upper one should have been 125. Right. No, that's correct. Yeah, 195. Perfect. 195. Okay. Students, are you seeing what happened in this case, right? So what we did for the calculation of original index value, we just multiplied the starting price of the product with its respective weights. Now for the new index value, what we'll do, what's the new, right? So the new prices for each of these products times their respective weights, right? So it will be 125 times, right? It will be 125 times 0.3. Then for the next one, it will be 85 times 0.2, right? So weights is staying the same because obviously the weights haven't changed during that time period. The only thing that has changed was the prices of the two products. Just a second. Sometimes my writing tab is right. So it's 85 times 0.2, 0.2, right? We're getting the idea, right? Then it's 130 times 0.2 again. Then it's 450 times 0.45, 0.15, sorry. 450 times 0.15. Zohan, can you tell me the values? And then it's 1600 times 0.15, right? So you did the same thing for calculation of new index value, except for the fact that now you took new prices instead of original prices. Yes or no? Right? You good on this? Okay, now 37.5, right? Then you have 17, then you have 26, right? Okay, then you have 26, 67.5, 67.5, and what's the last one? 1600 into 240. Got it. Okay, thank you so much. Right now, what we did, we based on the new and the original prices, we calculated the original index value and the new index value. Now, the only thing that you have to do next is to just add up the final values in this column and similarly add up the final values in this column, right? Because that will give us one index number. That will give us one index number, right? So you add 30 plus 15 plus 25 plus 75 plus 195, right? To calculate the original, whatever that number will be, that will be your original index number. And then when you add up 37.5 plus 17 plus 26 plus 67.5 and plus 240, that will give you the new index value. Students, is it making sense? Right? So you are getting 340 and 388. Thank you so much. Right? So original index value, as you just saw through the calculation that we did based on our hypothetical values, original index value was 340, and the new index value is 388. Easy. Is everyone clear on this? So now comes in the very final stage to calculate inflation rate, right? Because inflation is a percentage. Yes or no? It's a percentage. Okay, now students, have a look at this. Now what you will do here, just like you calculate percentage change in any variable, even like we did for GDP, I did tell you how to calculate the economic growth rate. Similarly, what you will do here is that you will just calculate the percentage change in the two numbers, right? In the two values that you have, right? So what's the formula for percentage change for any variable? So new value, which is 388 in this case, minus old value, which is 340, divided by old value, which is 340 into 100. So when you do this calculation, that is what will give you the final rate of inflation in that country, which turns out to be 14.12, right? So you can just reduce it to 2 decimal places, right? That's more than accurate, right? So 14.12%. Now what this shows, this is your final rate of inflation, which shows that on average, prices of goods and services in this economy, let's say Pakistan, rose by 14.12%. So average price of an average good in Pakistan rose by how much? 14.12%. Now let's come back and see. Did the price of food items rose by 14%? Did the price of food items rose by 14%? Just answer it in yes or no. So if you calculate the percentage change in the food prices, is this equal to 14%? Just look at it carefully, right? You don't even need to do calculation for this, right? Did the price of food items increase by 14%? The answer is no. There's a 25% increase, right? But then what does 14% shows? That's what it shows. It shows that it's the average change in prices. So since it's coming with the positive sign, because obviously new index value, as you can see for yourself, was higher than the original index value, this means that, there was positive change. This means that prices increased during this time. And by how much did prices increase? Prices rose by 14.12%. So if on average something was 100 rupees at the start of the period, at the end of the period, it was 114. But we can't see any products having exactly 14% rise. We don't see any product in our calculation having exactly 14% rise. Why? Because this is the average. In this case, prices rose, but I don't think so. It was perhaps less than 14%. Even in this case, there was less than 14%. In this case, the prices fell from 500 to 450. And in this case, I think percentage change was percentage change in price was higher than 14%, right? So that is what inflation is. Got it? Students, is it making sense? So this number is what will be quoted on Pakistan's government's website, and it will be quoted in different research papers, and businesses will use this number to estimate how much their cost of living. Consumer will estimate this to know how much their cost of living has increased. Producers will estimate this, use this number to estimate how much will be the increase in the cost of raw materials and things like that. So this is basically how actually consumer price index is calculated across the globe, right? So quick recap, and then we stop here, and tomorrow we'll continue from here, right? So I said there will be 4 steps. All you have to do, first step, identify the basket of goods that a typical consumer consumes, right? So it will include all items that a consumer consumes. In real CPI calculation, there are 500, 600 items, because these many different products a typical consumer consumes. Then comes in starting price. What starting price? Starting price is what was the price of each of these items at the start of the period. Closing price, what was the price of each of these items at the end of the period. Weights are assigned on the basis of importance, and that is determined by the proportion of income that you spend on the good. So if something, any product on which you spend a bigger proportion of your income, just imagine, right? So food is something that everyone consumes more or less to the same amount. Even a homeless, very poor person will also be spending something similar to what a very rich person spends, because basic food items that more or less everyone has the same, right? Are you getting me? Got it? So that's why food is a very basic necessity, and that's why it has more weights, and then electricity and so on and so forth, right? Then what do you do next? You do the calculations. How do you do that? So for original index value, you multiply the starting price of the product with its respective weight. Similarly, you fill out all the values, and then you add up all those values. So that number will give you your original index number, original index value, as you say. Then for the new index value, you have to multiply new prices with their respective weights, and you add all those up, and that give you new index value. After that, you just need to calculate percentage change like you do for any other variable, right? And that overall number will tell you how much on average the price of goods and services rose in that country during that time period. So it will show that in Pakistan, if let's say this example was for Pakistan during 2021, on average goods and services became expensive by 14.12%. That is what it means. That is what it shows. Easy? Is everyone clear on this? Any confusion? So students, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Have a good night. And I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. I'll see you at 9, right? So I'm bringing back the time back to 9 because I think that it suits most students, right? So I'll see you then. Take care and have a good night. And tomorrow we'll continue our discussion from here. Thank you so much.